Welcome to the Real Life Artist Podcast. This is the show where we discuss the challenges that come with being an artist, as well as ways you can overcome those challenges through practical applications, shared experiences, and general discussion. My name is Luke. I'm your host. As always, grab your favorite beverage or snack. Or if you're in your car on your way to work, sit back, relax, enjoy. Today we are talking about learning from other disciplines and other lines of work. So have you ever seen someone work differently than you but get amazing results? And when I say, this could be like as an artist, musician, composer, right? But it could also be like an athlete or somebody who's in a totally different field. And has your workflow, let me ask you this, has your workflow or your ideas been challenged by someone who doesn't necessarily pursue creative endeavors? Well, that is what we are talking about today, and how we can learn a lot from other disciplines/lines of work other than musicians, composers, producers, artists. Not as though artists, musicians, etc. can't teach us a lot, because certainly they can, but I don't think we talk about this enough as musicians, honestly. We think that if somebody works in construction or a corporate environment, that we can't learn from them because they're not doing what we're doing. But that is simply not true, and I hope to make a compelling case of that today. So, our outline is 1, Navy SEALs. We're going to be talking about Navy SEALs. 2, new perspectives on our work. And 3, re-energize. So, let's get right into it. Let's talk about Navy SEALs. So, I like to read a lot, right? And I've been reading books written by Navy SEALs, former Navy SEALs. 2 in particular that I'm going to name. Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins, and Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink and Leif Babin. So, David Goggins, for example, let me just start briefly who these people are. So David Goggins is a triathlete, American runner, and he's sort of a motivational speaker in a way. He's also set and broken a lot of physical/athletic records. He's also an author and former U.S. Navy SEAL. Awesome dude. I feel I have learned a lot from him recently. And then Jocko Willink and Leif Babin served as Navy SEALs as well, and part of their duty was in Iraq in recent history when there were problems and terrorist attacks and conflict there. So, there are so much to learn from these people too, who have served in the army/military, particularly because they have one thing that most musicians and producers don't, quite frankly, and that's discipline. Now, not only have I personally learned about discipline, reading from former U.S. Navy SEALs, but also tactics that can apply to business in the way that they operate. They have a very high expectation that they have to live up to, and training every day, every week. And it's especially evident when you read their stories. This is something that I've taken from and that I've learned from them. And the crazy part is, too, there are some really unexpected lessons, too, that aren't even necessarily business. It's more just general lessons that I apply to music from these books. So, for example, in Extreme Ownership, Jocko and Leif talk about a scenario in which the Navy SEALs were forced to work with the Iraqi soldiers, which was very difficult for them because the Iraqi soldiers were very, under-equipped, under-trained, and so there were a lot of complaints among the teams about, like, hey, they're not going to, we can't trust them. They're not going to get the mission done, etc. So the team wasn't seeing the vision, but the leaders of that platoon were able to say, okay, well, who's defending Iraq right now? Okay, us, right? Who's going to continue to do it in a year? Us. How about 2 years, 3? So we don't want to be doing this forever. And so the team sort of understand, okay, you know what? Yeah, we are going to have to train these Iraqi soldiers. We're going to have to work with them. And the cool part is, so here's what I got from this. At first, I'm like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. You got to explain to your team the mission, and they have to be on board. But the really cool part is that the soldiers, they knew the land, right? They were locals. So they could open locks and gain entry quietly into buildings, whereas the SEALs would have to use explosives and sledgehammers, which are, very effective, but now the whole neighborhood knows that you're entering a building. So that was one benefit. Another one is that the Iraqi soldiers could tell friend from foe based off of accent and things like that. So, even though it seems like we were forced into these difficult, annoying situations, there are actually unexpected benefits. And I think that's one really great thing I took away from that. From Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins, he talks about something called the 40% rule, where when you're just sort of working 9 to 5, your job, that's only 40% of our actual effort. Again, this is his 40% rule. And that basically we can and should work more than that 9 to 5, because if not, we're really only utilizing a small amount of our total effort, and that could be put into working out our own business. And when you look at it that way, it to me, the possibilities are a lot more open, because that would be less than half of our effort, our time. So those are some lessons I've learned from Navy SEALs. And moving on to our second point in the outline, which is new perspectives on work. I think all of this has kind of brought me to this. That when you do the same thing every day, like creating beats or composing music, it gets old fast. And your workflow might get stale or stagnant. So learning from other disciplines and lines of work can give you new insights into your work. So, for example, me personally, working a corporate job has taught me about business and professional etiquette. Now, even though that's not really my favorite part of the job, it can apply to my own business, and it's helped me navigate the business side of things. And, sometimes you might find that the general energy of an environment or a workforce is different than your own workspace or workforce. So for me, working in AV, audiovisual things, they're very fast moving. When you get a lead, you got to reply and follow up fast, not only for scheduling and gear purposes, but also this client has to know that we can trust and rely on you as a company and move forward. So this has helped me gain more clients and get more done. So I've started to apply that to my business. And maybe another thing is you spot in a job or a discipline something that's not being done right, and that can inspire you to do better as well. That's the interesting part about looking at other fields. So for example, look at the medical industry. I find medical billing here in the US to be very confusing, to be honest. So I sort of took that idea of like, okay, I'm looking at this, medical billing's confusing, no one really knows what's going on. I'm going to simplify that so that there's no confusion, and if there is, there's no escalation if the client doesn't really understand the charges. So yeah, definitely use that insight as well, the good as well as the bad. And moving on to our final outline point here, re-energize. So study these other fields and disciplines to refresh your workflow. If we're not constantly re-energizing, we're going to get burnt out. Think of how you can apply, for example, an athlete's workflow to your own workflow. When are they getting up? What's their routine? Do they have a routine? Healthy mind, healthy body, or healthy body, healthy mind, that sort of thing. How about an author? I have studied a lot of authors and workflows that they adopt, and it's really interesting. The biggest thing they usually do is writing every single day. So that's one thing that I've gotten. Are you writing music every day? Because if not, I would see how that works for authors. It's usually very good. They've got blogs and email lists, and it's just sort of a gradual buildup. How about actors or construction workers? So when you get stuck, look outside your field for inspiration and refreshment. That is the big takeaway from this that I want us to focus on. So thank you so much for listening. I hope this was valuable to your creative journey. Check the show notes for ways that you can reach out. I would love to hear from you. Send a message, email, voice memo, question, comment, concern. Reach out. I would love to hear from you. Thank you for listening, and have a great day.